Sorry. But you are live there, though.
Call Stephenville Town Council meeting Thursday, April 27th, to order. Now, please take the roll.
Councilmember Barker.
Here.
Councilmember Lowell.
Here.
Councilmember Michelson.
Here.
And Councilmember Brown.
Excused.
Thank you. Mayor Gibson.
Here. Okay, pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You have to bear with my, so Pam got sick, Janelle got sick, and now I'm just getting weird.
Welcome. Keep it family.
Okay, we'll go to, is there any public comment on anything that's not on the agenda? State your name, where you live.
Craig E. Thomas, 4189 Emerald Lane, Stephenville, Montana, 59870, Airport Board Chair. At the last meeting during the board reports, I was not allowed to speak. And I wanted to say from the board, thank you, Mayor Gibson, and all the council members and the administrative staff for working through this audit. We understand that it was quite difficult, and I'm sure that you did a lot of things for us that we will never know about, and we just wanted to express our appreciation for the efforts that you put forth on our behalf.
Thank you.
That's what I wanted to say at that. I have another item that I would like to say. Miss Montana is 79 on the 4th of May, and she is part of the group from the Museum of Mountain Flying. They have a hangar at our airport, and in Missoula, they're gonna have a birthday party for her. There's a dinner, and they would like to invite the council and the administrative staff to come to that. The governor will be there to do an honorary proclamation in regards to Miss Montana. It'll start at 5:30, dinner immediately after. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Any other public comment on anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go to for approval of minutes, town council meeting minutes, 4/13/2023. Councilmember Michelson.
I make a motion to approve the town council meeting minutes of 4/13/2023.
Okay.
I'll second that
Councilmember
motion.
Lowell seconds it. Are there any comments from the public on the claim, on the minutes? Seeing none, any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, now please take the vote.
Councilmember Barker.
Aye.
Councilmember Lowell.
Aye.
And Councilmember Michelson.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Okay, we'll go to approval of bi-weekly claims, 18-312 through 18-330. Councilmember Mike.
I make a motion to approve the claims number 18312 through 18330.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Barton.
I'll second the motion.
Been a motion and a second. Any public comment on the claims? Any further discussion on the claims? Councilmember Michelson.
Claim 18320, the HDR engineering. Did we run out of the $10,000 money that we had allotted, or?
No, and I was I'll do the executive, but I can do it now. So we've started the process for the bids for ARPA,
Yeah,
which they're involved in. They've done the survey, we're doing design, and then it'll go to DQ. So I think we'll be able to put out the bids in August.
that's what this is for. Okay.
Yep.
Because the wording made it sound like capacity evaluation.
Oh, I think that, well, Nat, is that for the capacity or is that for the ARPA?
This one was for the capacity
Yeah, the
evaluation.
capacity study we should have, last I was told, any day now.
Okay. I was just wondering, we had
Actually, no.
$10,000 and then
Right.
$2,900
I've got
bill
the
come
two
out.
mixed up.
So I just thought we must have run out of the 10 grand.
Any
Okay.
other discussion? Seeing none, Janelle, please take the vote.
Councilor Barker. Aye. Councilor Lowell.
Aye.
And Councilor Michelson.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. New business. We have Mr. Kenny here. You have a big packet on your table. He's going to present the audit, and this is for, goes back to 2021, 21, 22. Mr. Kenny.
Thank you.
You bet, thank you.
My name is Robert Denning with the CPA firm Denning Downey CPAs. I'm here to present the official audit report for the fiscal years ending June 30th of 21 and June 30th of 22. This report brings the city current with both state and federal guidelines. Okay. We've already issued a report to the state and the feds. I just want to jump to this. I've got kind of a written thing, but I'm really pleased to say that you receive our highest opinion, okay? And let me just jump to a page in the report if I could. Page 13, the second paragraph. This is where I would like you to direct people when they say, what was our audit about? What was it like? What was the report? In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information for the town of Stevensville as of June 30, 21 and June 30th of 22. I can't say anything better. The numbers you present to the public are fairly stated. Okay? So, very, very good job.
Thank you.
When I was here last time, you guys remember, what was that? 5 months ago. Okay? I presented a very aggressive plan, right? To balance cash for almost 2 years, to help correct all the errors in the accounting system, to catch up on your late AFR reporting, and to perform this audit along with the federal on time with the feds. It was kind of an aggressive plan. To tell the truth, I know I sounded real confident back then, but even I was wondering, can we really get this done? I stand before you now with all of those things successfully completed. Okay? I'm not taking credit for it, okay? The task never could have been completed without the work of Robert and Pam, okay? Pam's legacy is she helped get the city back on their feet. Told you I'd get that.
Big uppercase.
So, but everybody in this room should know that I'm a real hard ass. And I pushed them hard and I pushed my staff very hard. When I saw things lagging, no matter who it was, I pushed, okay? But everybody stepped up to the plate. And it got done. And I'm very proud of everybody, Pam and Robert and my staff. So, thank you again. like I said before, this is a federal audit. I'd like you to turn to page 95. '95 is a page, this summarizes the federal awards that you received. And you can see you received $1.2 million on the airport program, and then 2 grants on the coronavirus relief, the CARES Act. One for 255, one for 264,000. We audited all those programs in compliance with federal law. So Congress comes up with a list of things they want us auditors to look at for each of these programs. It's a checklist, and sometimes those checklists are really large and onerous, and they don't seem to make sense, but that's what Congress told us to test for. We tested every one of those things, and we found no exceptions. So that's what we submitted to the federal government.
Are we free to ask a question?
Absolutely,
Okay, I'll stick where you were at on this FAA thing.
yes,
I was at the last airport meeting,
yes.
and the subject came up about an audit that needed to be done by the airport. Would this fulfill that for them if we pass this forward? Because you did an audit on it.
So the airport is a function of the town, am I correct?
Right.
Okay, and this grant was part of the town in their airport fund. And that grant was for $1,250,264, and that's the money we audited
Okay,
and submitted to the feds.
so it was good. It was-
So so the way that works is the FAA, I guarantee you they do that. They are the pestiest of all the federal agencies. They call me up at home sometimes and ask me questions, okay? So they will go to the federal website to look for 2 things. Number 1, did you get your federal audit completed? And is it there? Number 2, did you comply with all their requirements? Okay, if either of those things are bad, I've known them to shut off all future FAA funding. Right, that's just kind of their bottom line. So no, you're current with them now. Okay?
Okay.
That's great. Anybody else have any more questions for the Rebecca? Questions for anything? Come on, audits are exciting stuff. Usually, you guys all tend to listen to me, right?
You already said what we wanted.
Councilmember Carter.
So what findings are we going to have to fix as a town?
Okay, let's just jump straight to that, okay? Can we now turn to page 103? In the prior audit, you were given 15 audit findings. This audit, you were given 10, okay? And as we go through these, we'll answer your questions specifically on each one, okay? So the first audit finding was cash reconciliation. So apparently this has been going on for some time because the prior auditor issued this same finding in 2020. Yeah, we all know what it is, right? The bank reconciliation. Okay. The effect says this was corrected for 21 and 22. So going forward, all you need to do is do your monthly bank reconciliation. Okay? You don't have to do a correction as a result of this. It's all fixed. Comment number 2 is exceeding your budget authority. Okay, so this is kind of a pest. this is a tough finding, okay? The law says you can't spend more than your budget, right? Your budget's your promise to your taxpayers. And in fiscal year 21, I don't think we were as control of our finances back then, right? Because the general fund blew their budget by $164,000 that year. Okay. But fiscal year 22, if you look at that finding, that's on page 104, we only had the gas tax fund of 60,000 and the sidewalk improvement fund of 8,000. Now, the easy way out of that, right, we're coming up to June 30th of 23, okay? Run a financial statement, one of those budget actual ones, you get one every month, right, in your packet. And any of them that have negative numbers on June 30th, do a budget hearing and a budget resolution to increase your budget.
Now, could I just,
Yes,
I think, and Robert, correct me, the Barca was a over expenditure on Third Street, correct? That wasn't entered. So when they did Third Street a couple years ago, it was over budget, but that wasn't entered, as you mentioned.
right. So again, you have to have a public hearing, you have to inform the public, right, that you got a grant that you hadn't anticipated and you plan on spending it. That's what you have to do. Okay. The problem is, if you look at the law there, part 2 on the criteria, it says a local government official who violates this subsection can be held personally liable for exceeding the budget. So, but I've only seen that applied twice in my career. You have to have an accounting attorney, right, who really doesn't like you. Okay. So it's so easy to fix by simply doing a budget amendment right there. Okay?
Councilmember Michaels.
Yes, I'm sorry. Bob.
On the next page, journal vouchers, is that pretty much a budget amendment too? Is that what
No.
you're talking about, Robert?
On journal vouchers, so the journal vouchers, we're making corrections to the accounting system, right?
Oh, okay.
That's what a journal voucher is. Means we made a mistake and now we're correcting it. Because the easiest way to cover up fraud or embezzlement or something is by doing journal vouchers, then this is my requirement. It's not a state law.
Oh,
And I want the mayor and the council to be aware of any corrections the accounting staff did. Can you approve those? Yes,
Councilmember Michaels.
backing up to the budget amendments,
yes.
when I was on the council to 2016 to 2018 and part of 19, when we did budget amendments, we did them periodically. We didn't wait till the end of the year. The reason I'm saying that is I think the first time I seen one was when Stacy and I left the council in 19 and you got on, and then remember that December when?
Well, when I was on, when I was on in 19, it was after the year. We had already passed the budget, and budget amendments were made after that.
But what I'm getting at is I don't know a whole lot about bookkeeping, but I would think that as soon as a budget amendment needed to be made, it would come before the council. We wouldn't wait until a whole stack of them were at the end of the year, because wouldn't it kind of mess up the bookkeeping?
I sure agree with you. The theory behind the law is you have to have budget before you pay the bill, right? So clearly you want to do the budget amendment before you approve the claim, okay?
Right.
But sometimes that doesn't happen in that order, right? And I only audit at the end of the year. And so I look at it at the end of the year, and if your budget's enough, then I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you.
Comment number 3, are revenue bond requirements. So you have revenue bonds for both your water and your sewer. And those revenue bonds, they're confusing, they're hard to read. But the attorneys wrote a clause that they want you to keep your rates high enough that you will be able to pay off 110% of your next principal and interest payment coming up. Okay? Enough profit to be able to do that. 110%. And my calculation shows, and this is on page 105. The sewer fund had the bigger problem. If you look at it in fiscal year 21, the sewer fund was short almost $13,000. But in fiscal year 22, it was short almost $53,000. Now, I'm not aware of it, but is that kind of going to be a future agenda item to address water and sewer rates?
Yeah, if you look at our, if you look at our response, Robert, you said we're gonna review that with the world.
And go water company do another rate analysis and then present it again. And see what we have.
Okay. Because technically, you're in violation of your revenue plan.
Yeah, it's in our response.
Can I ask a question? What do you attribute this to? Overspending in the accounts?
Now, how long is it since you increased your water sewer rates?
Well, I know it
3 years.
will probably come down to it, but I'm just looking at
I've been talking about 3 years.
So
what can we do besides
this is my
raise
take.
the rates?
I see this all the time. And to me, if my bill went up 3% a year, I probably wouldn't have a problem with that. I know inflation and stuff like that. But if my bill didn't go up for 10 years and then they increased it by 30%, I'd have a cow. Right? You guys too? So I always think we should kind of incrementally move them instead of, big steps. And if you do that, I mean, that was the deal you had when you got that revenue bond debt, that you would keep your rates.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much as overspending, as you said. They haven't been raised for 3 years.
3 years.
3 years. And we're gonna have a big discussion about this in the budget, and nobody wants to raise water and sewer rates. But what's coming down the pike too is, I think, and I know Mr. Michelson does, I don't think people realize how much electricity we use to run these pumps for these wells and the pumps. And right now with PSC in Montana, there's a proposal to increase the electricity rates by 28%. So, I mean, we're gonna have to take a strong look at this. And, we're gonna fix the leaks, hopefully, with the ARPA and all that. But at 28%, as you approve the claims all the time, you see the cost of utilities. And a lot of that is the water and sewer plant. So, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please, I like open discussion.
I'm just concerned, a lot of people are having a hard time paying now. And I don't know how the accounts receivable is if, we have a lot of late payments or if it's back. Because at one time it was like 50,000, they've got that under control.
As far as the late payments go, since I've been here and now with Melanie, we give them so much time, but for example, we have done water shut-off notices. And for example, I won't say who, but we just received a check, I think this week, for about $1,000. So we're doing everything we can. I mean, we give people,
I understand that.
give them 90 days, we give them another 30 days. But we are, and it's kind of amazing, when you think about it, and I can't speak for everybody, but in the winter, when your water bill is $85 and you let it go for a year, I don't know why you do that when you come in and pay $1,000. Just happens.
Got their taxes.
But that's the reality. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Comment number 5, so segregation of duties. I give this finding, and not only me, but about almost every government in Montana. It's so common. it's not like you have a staff here of a dozen people where you can create a great checks and balance system, right? Okay? And I'm not asking for that, but I'm required to disclose that it's a potential risk that you have with checks and balances. And just be aware of it and keep doing everything you can to try to mitigate that. Okay, comment number 6. I think we understand the internal controls related to your cash disbursements during that 2021 time period. Okay. How am I doing?
Spot on.
Okay. So,
Well, as you can see, we did that in January when Pam came, when I first got here, the 2 signature thing. We've done the best we can. Certain people get the mail, open the mail. Certain people can't touch the cash. But as the auditor said, sometimes we have 2 people here, at the most 3. But the signature one was pretty common sense. And we'll have to do that again after next week.
comment number 7 is the timely filing of the annual financial report for the state. We're back on track now, okay? But the state takes this one pretty seriously. Senate Bill 302, which people call the Glacier County Bill, allowed any taxpayer, if the town was late in filing their report with the state, to sue the town. Okay, it was automatic standing. And in most cases, the town would have to pay their attorney fees. Okay. So we kind of took that one pretty serious, and going forward, I sure don't see this being an issue. But it wasn't filed timely for either 21 or 22. Okay. Number 8, the building code enforcement cash balance. This one I have a hard time with. We have 2 Montana laws. We have Montana Law 50-60-106 that says that you can't have more cash in your building code fund than to run the department for the next 12 months. Okay? MCA 17.2-302 says you can have enough money in there for 2 years of building code cash. Okay? So we have 2 Montana codes, and they appear to be conflicting.
Yeah.
Right? The state of Montana has a building code enforcement division, and they actually can require an audit of your building code fees. If we take the more conservative, that you can't have more than 12 months of cash, then you can see from the finding in excess of 27,000 for 21, in excess of 78,000 for 22. Okay, so there's a couple ways to handle this, right? You can increase your budget, right? That would solve the problem. You can reduce your building code fees, right?
There is something in the, I don't know the bill number, that's somewhat connected to this. There is a legislative bill, it's passed both houses, I think it's gone to the governor, that makes it more flexible with this fund. Even as it goes as far as what you can use it for,
That would be good.
and I think it's to the governor's office. I don't remember the number.
Comment number 9 only applies to fiscal year 21. Okay. So when we levy taxes, we have a law that says if you have too much cash, then you're not supposed to levy taxes. governments aren't supposed to stockpile cash, right? They're supposed to levy enough to provide the service. Cities are allowed to levy 50% more than their budget. Well, some people tell me it's like 50%, that's crazy. Oh, wait, the budget starts July 1. You're like a farmer. You don't get your crop in till the end of November. That's 5 months. Oh yeah, it's the summer months where your road construction's the most, your police departments are the most. So 50% doesn't really even cut it, okay? So, however, in fiscal year 21, we did exceed those amounts in the general fund and the capital improvements fund. So I would recommend looking at your budgets when you do. Remember, it's 50% of your budget. Shoot, you could have just increased your budget in the general fund by $33,000 and this wouldn't be an issue.
Or if they check the bank once a month, like one of your findings said on the cash conciliation, they might be able to.
And that's probably what happened at the time.
You know, if you look at it, you guys passed the budget amendment for 21 last budget meeting. Those numbers would have changed now, so it's kind of a, yeah. So it was just off a little bit, just because of what they did, so we did.
Okay,
Yeah, we kind of fixed it a little bit.
kind of, yeah, I like that. The last comment is doing loans between funds. By the way, loans between funds, I am totally down with that, you can do that. However, if you make a loan between funds and it extends more than 12 months, then I call that a long-term loan. Long-term loans, I want to see terms of payment, right? An interest rate, reasonable payments, right now like $1 a year for the next 1,000 years, okay? So in fiscal year 21, you had an old loan between funds. Now that's paid off, so it's a non-issue. Just going forward, let's just draft that good loan agreement. Okay, in conclusion, the prior audit had 15 audit findings. We had 10 audit findings. And of those 10, basically, all of them were already corrected, right? Did a great MD&A. I am, by the way, very impressed. You did your management's discussion analysis for 2 years so quickly. Okay, I didn't expect that. I was just gonna give you a finding for not doing it until we got that. So, have a team. Even though there's some room for improvement, if we can remember, go back to page 13, and remember, the financial statements you presented to the public, to the state, and to the feds are correct, and people can go on. And I'm
Councilmember Lowell.
Oh, I just have another question.
Mhm.
I didn't notice anything on the fireman's pension fund. And I had noticed on a budget that I'd received that they were down pretty much to the bare bones. And I was thinking, well, there's probably more people retiring. How does the town handle that? And, I mean,
So,
Robert, is it okay,
oh,
Robert?
please,
Yeah, that's just a pass-through. That's not a pass-through. So the state insurance gives our firemen and the police a check every year. One check for police goes in their training fund, and the other one goes into the fire pension fund. We turn around and write it back to the Firemen and Police Association, I think it is, and that's who pays the retirement. So that should always, most of the time, pay zero. It's just a pass-through.
I mean, as there's more retirees, you know, which I'm sure there will be, how do you, up your money, up your fund for that,
their benefits are paltry, we all know that, right?
right?
Any of you guys on that?
I know, I do, but it's very important to them.
Yeah, of course, You know, it's the only thank you that they get after 20
Right.
years of service, right?
Mhm.
And most of them, it's like $75 a month. I don't know what yours is.
I think it was
Well, and
two
again,
hundred and
and
some.
I'll talk a little bit of executive. There's so much legislation going on right now. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Some could really help us. The bars of 350,000 compared to 70,000. The building thing, there's a bill to make towns and counties pay, I think, an extra 10% for PERS.
Mhm.
That's huge.
It's because
Been working on that with some people over there. It's still hanging out there. But can you imagine what that does to bigger cities?
Mhm.
But what it'll do to us is pretty much a hammer.
So did you see your liability for PERS? I put it in the report. I'm going to turn you to a page on it. So let's go to page 17. So we call it the net pension liability. $524,000. That's this town's share of the unfunded liability for PERS. The unfunded liability. Now, currently, there's some lawsuits going around, like Lewis and Clark County. I believe they got rid of their hospital, right? They sold it. And the hospital that acquired it didn't pick up the liability. So the state of Montana sent them a bill. Okay? And they're arguing in court, like, we don't set the rates and we don't set the benefits. So why are we responsible? We have no control over it. So why are we responsible? And that's a great argument. Our legislature hasn't addressed this problem in years. It's like Social Security, right? It's like, oh, just put it off until it crashes. Well, if they don't deal with it, it will crash. And I haven't heard
Well,
that they were going to do
and
something.
it's connected to it, you know, of course, you have all different retirement funds. You have the sheriffs, which are pretty good in place. You have to have the actuaries, you know, so much you average percentage and interest or into investments. The state of Montana has a board of investments which covers state employees and everyone else, and they have to get a certain rate. Well, you know what's happened in the stock market now. The highway patrol is a little different. I actually carried the bill for the highway patrol retirement, but they gave a bigger share than personally than what the Attorney General's office matched. They're fairly sound, but judges, nice retirement for judges. They're pretty sound. But yeah, it's going on right now, and a lot of it is affected by the market. The Board of Investments does investments, different kinds of investments, and that's what a lot of that is based upon. And you get to a point, as you probably know, it used to be a 7% figure.
Last year,
Yeah.
the actuary, it was a little bit more than 7%, 7 point something.
Yeah.
Predicted that that's what they would increase, and the market went down 21%.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shoot.
So,
But hopefully this other bill doesn't go through, or it's gonna impact us. Don't know the dollar
quick
amount.
question, Nancy. I wish any of us had the answer to that.
I do have one more question.
Go ahead.
After going through all this, what's your opinion on for next year for our budget in the town without, the extra money coming in, which has, helped tremendously, I'm sure. I foresee it as a very tight budget year.
So I want to bring your attention to, put your fingers on two different pages.
Okay.
Page 25 and page 21. Okay? So when I'm looking at the health of a government, I kind of focus on the general fund. Right? That's your most flexible fund with things. And on page 21, I see the general fund had $806,000 in the bank and very little debt. Right? Okay. But $806,000 by itself, is that a big number or not? So now let's go to page 25. During last year, your total expenditures were $1,031,000. Okay? 806,000 versus $1,031,000. That tells me that you guys are a pretty conservative government,
Yeah, I think we're doing okay.
right?
It'll be tight.
You're not wasting your money and stuff like that. Sure, you gotta adjust your water sewer rates and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but, no, I'm proud of you. You guys are doing okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much, and thank Tika, and I can't remember.
John.
Yeah.
John?
John, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were other.
And Kim did your federal, and Angela did your closing, and Krista did all the typing and stuff. It was a
It was a
real
pleasure.
big effort.
It was good working with you, and thank you for everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll go to new business B, discussion decision and gravel pit funding source for the Stevensville Airport. You'll see, we put it on your desk, pushed it back in November of 22. The town of should be on your table. There's just, it's not to say not to look at it, but there's some real questions here as to how, if you wanted to proceed, that you would proceed. Is there someone here that wants to present this agenda item?
I think it's pretty well. Craig Thomas, 4189 Emerald Lane, Stevensville, Montana, 59870, Airport Board Chair. I think all the data that is already there that you have in front of you, the discussions that we have gone through. Basically, the gravel pit would increase the revenue to the airport about 100%. And we're talking about the sewer here a little bit ago, and my hangar rate changed from, in my new lease, it went from 6 cents to 14 cents, that's 230%. So we're understanding some of the the increases in cost. The TED is going to end in the next couple of years, and we need to find some additional revenue source. This one will be approved by the FAA. For details, I believe John Horat is here, and he could make a few comments about that. John, if you could do that, is that acceptable?
Go ahead.
Good evening, I'm John Horat with the Raleigh County Road and Bridge Department. Mayor and I have talked before, sent him a letter, we've been talking to the airport board for some time. And back in October, I wrote a letter to him and talked about the main points that if we developed a memorandum of understanding. The mayor is going to review these real briefly, I don't want to take too much time, but the county would like to, we're running out of gravel at our source, and we're looking for a new source, either a piece of land very convenient across the street from where we're running out of gravel at the airport. So in just preliminary talking points for the memorandum of understanding was obtain and maintain an open mining permit, county responsibilities. I'll go first in that. And operating under past permits, there's a long-term plan, stockpiles, hours of operation, reclamation plan activities. We'd get a consultant on board to secure that. We would discuss a pay per yard royalty of material process. And we were looking at possible royalties for the airport of $20,000 to $30,000 a year. estimated life to gravel operation is 10 years, and we provide insurance on our operations there. And in another talking points for the town of Stevensville is fence would need to be relocated so that we could operate the gravel pit there, and we could work out how that would occur. And there'd also be some possible trades for sands and gravels for royalties. Got a great working relationship with the town in the past. Winter operations, sand, and water from the town. Really appreciate that. We work on our gravel roads in the area here, different paving operations. It's very beneficial. So I had sent a letter back in October, and the mayor brought up a couple really good points. One was the NEPA process being on federal land could be burdensome. I think we could, with our consultant and some of our in-house staff, we could jump that hurdle pretty easily. The other discussion point I think you ran up by council was the possibility of needing to put this out to public bid. I spoke with a couple of our commissioners, and there is some provision in code between local governments, Title 7 and Chapter 8, where there's some latitude to be able to work out some memorandum of understanding and if there's mutual benefit in exchanging property and stuff. So that would just be something to entertain if we could move forward. But we are very interested in working towards doing this if it's possible. If it's not, and if it doesn't suit the town, we'd be we're going to pursue other pieces of land or buy contract gravel. Our gravel roads get hungry. When people drive over and it disperses off the road, we have to, it's just an element that we have to continue doing. So I've also, Nate Pelkey, who is our road foreman, also sees the operations aspect of the job. If you have any questions about the operations and how that would potentially impact the airport and the town and being good neighbors and stuff, he'd be willing to answer any questions there too.
Thank you. I guess you didn't have these, you have these on your table. It's not a question, obviously we'd love to work with the county. It's not a question, do we want to pursue further looking into this for revenue for the airport, but I just want to point two things out here. This isn't from me, and I talked briefly to you about this back in November. The town attorney did review this, and he quotes some statutes, and maybe it's different for that, but about the bid process for market value. And then another one is interesting, that the operation lasts up to 10 years, and there's a code. You have the numbers here. If it goes beyond 5 years, it has to go to approval of the voter. So I think it's not that we don't want to work with the county. It's not that we don't want to see revenue for the airport. And personally, I'd love to pursue this, but I think the council, you're going to have to look into this further, and what you talked about with the commissioners about some other statute. But I guess it's up to you as to how you want to pursue this, but especially the last one really sticks out to me. So however you want to pursue this, Councilman.
I have a couple of questions, and one of them goes back to the FAA study, or the FAA letter there, where they're talking about an environmental impact study. So who would pay for that? Those aren't cheap.
We would look into that and pay for that as a part of getting the gravel pit going.
Mm-hmm.
See, and I wish the airport manager was here, because this has been going on for some time. And he put a big, it's in the packet about all these other things. And he was under the impression that this was going to be a different proposal than what the latest proposal was. I think we need time to sit down with the county. I'm just making a suggestion, it's up to you. The county, their attorney wants to get involved, our attorney wants to get involved, and the airport manager to see how you want to proceed with this. I think there's just too many questions at this time. But I want to make it clear, I mean, I wish we could just say, yeah, we're Valley County, you know? But with this in mind, I don't, it's up to you.
What about the noise level up there? This thing gets going, it's gonna be pretty loud, it's gonna be at certain hours, night, day.
I'm Nate Pelkey, the foreman for the department, work for John. I've had at least 2 meetings with the airport board with Craig. We've addressed a lot of these things, also with the 50-year plan for the FAA. The noise, to start off, since you asked it, would be our daily operations, 7 to 5. So it's a typical work day. A lot of the noise and the impact is done in the permitting process of the open cut mine. And at that time, the public, the residents around the area have the chance to comment. Once it's permitted, we try to be good neighbors, keep the dust down, the noise to a minimum, traffic, things like that.
Thanks. I guess I just want to, we don't have it says,
A motion yet.
we don't have a motion. I guess, I would ask how the council wants to proceed. Councilman Michaels.
Mayor Gibson, I think you had a good idea. I think we should pursue this further, but I think if it was possible, because it's gonna have to come down to the county attorney and our town attorney. If we could get both them together and they could work out an agreement that satisfies the guidelines of the MCA and both parties, and then bring it back to the council, I think that would go a lot further than us just going back and forth. That makes sense.
So I guess my only request is, and we're all busy, got projects and different things. We've got all sorts of potholes in the county if you're a driver. Roads, things to do. And just want some sort of consensus from, I don't know how your board works, but just some sort of consensus that if we can work something out legally and that it's potentially beneficial, that we could continue working on memorandum of understanding. If there's a thumbs down right now, and I don't want to gravel pit there, no way, no how. I don't really want to spend the efforts with our attorneys getting together and us pursuing this and talking to our consultant and everything. So I guess that's the only thing I'm asking tonight is just, because people have probably feelings, or maybe you want to take this or continue this to another meeting, but we just want an answer before we get together. And that's why we kind of put together these talking points, and we're available for initial concerns for this. But
I think what we're saying, we're not at a
No,
point,
we're for it.
we're not at a point where we can give an answer tonight.
so the council supports moving forward with the gravel pit if we can work it out legally. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah,
If we can work it out.
we can work it out with our attorney.
I can't say that's tomorrow or.
No, I know we have to work through the legal ramifications. I just am just looking for, like, there's no way we want to gravel pit here, just leave it alone, and we will walk and go find another piece of land.
I don't think, in my opinion, that's not the case. Again, one of my main concerns as to your current proposal right now, that maybe we can work out the thing with the trades and all that, is the last part where it says town code and MCA 754304 dash whatever. You're proposing that it would last up to 10 years. And the code says it has to go to the voter approval lasting over 5 years.
Right. And,
So that's something that's not.
and I understand that town code, and I've got MCA here that they've worked other agreements with other entities together before, so we just need to kind of see if this one, which one trumps which one, because I mean, obviously, nobody wants to do anything that's against the law, so.
Okay, well, I'm not, yeah, we want to work together. I guess Mr. Michelson's made a motion to get people together, and, I don't, we can contact our town attorney. He's usually pretty responsive, but I can't say when it's gonna happen. I don't control that. And, and I will say, you mentioned something about we're kind of busy too. My finance officer leaves the day after tomorrow. And we got a budget coming up. And we got to figure out how to do it. I'm not looking for sympathy, but we're in a place right now, we're going to figure out how we're going to do payroll claims. You know, that's what our finance officer does. And her last day of work is tomorrow. So I can't honestly sit here and say, yeah, we'll have an answer
2 weeks.
by the next meeting or something. I can't do that.
No, and my expectation isn't to have an immediate answer. I'm just looking for confirmation that if we can work this out, we'll move forward. Because if there's not a desire to move forward, then like I said, I'm not looking for tomorrow or 2 weeks or a month. I just want to know
Yeah.
that there's
And
a
I
willingness to do
can't
this.
speak for the council. I'm not saying there's not a desire to do it if it works out. You know, if it works out with all these things in place. It's not to say, never will there be a gravel pit. Or never will there ever have it. I guess council, you kind of said that, Mr. Mike, Councilmember Barker, if you have something.
Well, obviously you said, you know, we'd have to go in front of the public as well. I mean, this is something that you're asking for guidance now, right this minute. But there's still a lot of public out there too that has no idea about this, and it's gonna affect them as well. And to say, yes, we wanna go ahead, I'm for making extra money for the airport, I really am. But it needs to come in front of the public as well, and we can't make that, you know, we need to know right this minute. It puts us on a spot, it really does.
Yeah, and it's somewhat unclear just in the agenda item. I mean, it says memorandum of understanding for the gravel mining lease will be negotiable by the airport board and the county. It's not, we listen to the airport board, they're very important, but that isn't how it works. It's the town. The town owns the airport. So we have a motion. Go ahead, Councilmember Mike.
I'd like to add that I personally can't speak for the other council members. I think this is a great source if it's agreeable to both parties, county attorney and our town attorney, and Stacy Barker just mentioned. The public needs to be notified. Those people up there, they're gonna probably want to put their 2 cents in on it, on what they think about a gravel pit with the road, the noise, and everything else up there. So all that has to be factored in. But the bottom line is, yeah, I'm for it. If we can make it work between all the parties and the public, why not? It's a funding source, it's revenue for the airport, and it only helps the town.
I agree. Okay, so how do
I can make a motion.
Councilmember Mike?
I'd like to make a motion to have our town attorney and the county attorney get together and see if they can work out the details to bring back an agreeable agreement that works out for both the county and the town of Stephenville to do a gravel pit funding source.
Sounds good to me. Is there a second? Councilmember Barker.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment before we take the vote? Seeing none, Janelle, please take the vote.
Councilmember Barker?
Aye.
Councilmember Lowell?
Aye.
Councilmember Michelson?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. And thank you. I mean, we'll work it out.
Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Okay. Okay, next. Airport. Discussion decision, Skydive Montana hangar lease proposal, lot 5, block 6 of the Stevensville Airport. We have a motion to go to Councilmember Mike.
I make a motion to approve Skydive Montana hangar lease proposal on lot 5, block 6 of the Stephenville Airport.
Councilmember Barker.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, further discussion by the council?
I just had one question as I reviewed the lease, that it's stated in there that if they were to leave the airport, they would tear down their building. Do you know anything?
It's a termination clause.
It's what?
I'm not aware, is that?
That's the same lease we use on our so that they can take their building with them, because we don't own the building, they have to pay for the
Well,
building.
I know that, but,
They can, or they can sell it, or they can. lease it
right,
out.
most of them would sell it, but it was just very strange wording. I thought that when it stated that you can take your hanger down, I thought, whoa, that's kind of crazy.
William Earl, 357 Wickle Lane, Hamilton, Montana, CEO Scott, Montana. That's just what's in the lease proposal that we get for the hangar. We could sell it and leave it, or we could take it down. That's just the general wording. It's not anything we put in there.
Oh,
To
okay.
clarify. Yeah, it's nothing we
I
did.
understand that. It just seemed very strange to me to think someone
Yeah,
would take their,
I wouldn't spend the money to take it down,
No.
I'd just as soon sell it, but
yeah.
that's not our wording, that's
Right,
what's in the
okay.
lease.
Thank you.
Councilor Barker, yes.
So, looking through this, obviously we know no specifications on square footage, dollar values on any of it. They're all left blank. So, why is that? Why are we not seeing this?
Yeah, so, first, that's the normal agreement we normally do, so, the only thing we have to put in is the size of the building, and it's 14 cents, I think, for 14 cents a square foot now. And then the duration is for 20 years.
We're
And-
cleaning up.
Until they, and it kind of starts out, when they first get the lot, it's based on the size of the lot, and then when they build their building, it change, because sometimes they get bigger, sometimes they get smaller, so the lease is kind of they're gonna get the land, and then, once they build the building, then we figure out, it's kind of a work in progress, but.
It's just kind of deceiving when you look at this and you're going, okay,
And the reason that this one was put in there blank is that we are still going through all of the last 2 years on all the lots and leases between Robert and myself, and who's paid, who hasn't paid, making sure that lots and blocks match up to everybody. And so this is the same general lease that everybody has been getting. In this case, when this one came forth, it's not in front of my paperwork, it's on his side of paperwork, like the square footage of that lot, which then changes when they build their hangar.
you know,
Just
and
like he said.
maybe just to have something in there stating, hey, this is just an estimate. Or
We
just,
can't do that though, because of it being an agreement.
The thing, I can tell you, it's basically, they have to follow also the code of the airport, what the building be like and all that stuff, so that's kind of what the airport board does, approve it, say, they're gonna fall within these guidelines. I probably could have gotten the building size from them, if you expected it, they would put in there.
I didn't get it from you because you worked on that day,
Yeah.
sorry.
Councilor Lowe.
You know, I was thinking, there is the resolution, I believe, for the airport on the square footage and the cost. It was to go up a certain percentage each year, and I was thinking, it probably would be a really good idea to get a copy of the resolutions and ordinances pertaining to the airport, so you can go over it, because if you're increasing the price on the hangar, you need to amend that resolution, because I think it was at like 3 or 6, I can't remember the percentage that you were paying, but I know it was to go up every year, but it should be probably amended and updated. But I think that the airport should be given those to review and make the necessary amendments if necessary.
So how do you want to proceed with this item?
I'll make a motion to allow the skydive lease. What is it? I don't have my agenda.
There's already a motion in a second.
Oh, you already have a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to know if you want to do something different.
No.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve it. Is there any further discussion from the council? Seeing none, Chanel, please take the vote.
Sure. Councilor Barker,
I,
Councilor Lowell,
Aye.
and Councilor Michelson.
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Okay. I think we have a park board report, right? Councilmember?
Yes. Sure, I did. Had it. I don't know what I did with it. Okay. We have some, progress on our pool. However, we have some little issues that we're dealing with that right now. The pump repairs are in progress. Van Tassel brought their crane service down, with putting it all back together, hoping it's supposed to happen today, so that pump is in service. Concrete, however, we have some issues with the concrete right now around the edges, so we're gonna be looking at putting some bids out there to see what it would be that cost wise to replace, some concrete. It's actually about 8 to 10 inches down, it's starting to crumble. The weather, obviously, with having a rough winter, has caused a lot of those problems, so hopefully we can get a bid in and it's not gonna cost us too much money to be able to have that repaired so that we can get the pool up and going in time for June when they start all their swimming lessons and everything. So we're also gonna reach out to some more groups to see if there's a possibility of receiving some grants. However, we thought about the Rapp Family Foundation for the pool repairs, but it won't happen until June, so by that time, obviously, it's a little bit later, but we're still gonna try to put those in. Picnic benches and picnic tables were actually installed, so we're waiting for a possible opening right now for the splash pad. Don't have a date on that yet, but hopefully they've gone in and they've actually resurfaced it. It looks like it's gonna be a lot safer than it was before. We got our arbor grant, which was the $350, which bought us a maple tree that we're gonna plant on Friday. The mayor is going to be doing a proclamation, and that event will kick off at 12 o'clock. We have about 75 to 80 third graders that will be attending that for them to be able to help plant that tree. And the Forest Service was actually able to give us some gift bags together, and Steve Lassiter and his wife Amanda put those together for us. So the kids will be actually able to walk away with something in celebration of Arbor Day. We talked about the Scarecrow Festival. We're having some issues with MDT right now. I'm trying to be able to get the bike path to be able to proceed a little bit further. They're only going to allow probably about 16 along the path, and that is due to the fact of safety, because last year it was very congested, and so MDT is really cracking down on, the safety reasons, and maybe having somebody there at the crosswalk so that we can make sure that we're helping with that. But that's something that we're going to look into later on to be able to help with that event. That takes place this year. It's the 18th year, which will be October 6th and the 7th. Again, lighting has been a big issue, and we talked about that, and not sure what the status is for Montana Power coming out. If it's something that maybe, if these guys are too busy in the office, I'd be more than happy to call and get a hold of Northwestern Energy and find out what the status is. I'm trying to get some of the lighting, because it has been, we've got several, I noticed several that.
I know we've contacted them.
Yeah, so-
I mean, I just don't know.
Where we need to go with it, but it is dark, and obviously we have more people. It's staying lighter, of course, we like it where it's staying lighter, but however, especially come fall, we want to make sure that we try to get that taken care of. We had some issues in Father River Valley Park with some of the swings. However, we got somebody looking at that, and they also found 7 of the irrigation boxes that we had no idea where they were at until somebody took a metal detector and helped them find them. So anyway, very successful. We had 5 members there at the meeting, and we talked about possibly changing the next meeting till May 17th instead of whatever that, because of conflict of dates.
Doing a great job. Big hands out to Steve Lasser.
He's done amazing. for that, and we greatly appreciate him, having that knowledge to be on the park board. However, we tried to elect him as chairperson. He did not want it. Nobody else wanted it, so I'm the new chairperson for the park board. So, and I will make sure I get agenda items turned in on a timely fashion.
So quiz, all these people failed today. In the 1800s, where did Arbor Day start? What state? No, you can't, I already told you, you can't see. You gotta think of a place that probably didn't have any trees.
I would say Vermont, but I don't know if that's right.
Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Oh, my.
I was thinking somewhere that had, cultural rights or something.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Burke. Council comments, Councilman Michelson.
I just have one, next Tuesday through Thursday, fellow Councilmember Barker and I will be attending, interlocal authority training in Bozeman. That's all I got.
I just have
Bring
a
back
few things.
information.
Just have a few things on these. I talked about some, the ARPA process, the bidding should go out hopefully in August. Caprera, who runs it, is retiring, but there's two other people we've been working with to take that over. The pothole bill, is still alive. It's gonna, if it passes, it's gonna be big for us. Instead of we get like 36,000 twice a year for streets, we get about a one-time $350,000. There's your Spring Street, there's,
Third Street.
Again, the capacity study should be real soon. I met with them, kind of a verbal thing. We'll get that as soon as we get it to you. This energy thing, 28% electricity more on, we're already getting hammered. It hasn't totally gone through, but it's in PSC, but
That's totally.
we're getting closer and closer to moving town hall. By August at the latest, Matt, which will be good. Save us money, talk about money, save us over $1,000 a month. And I'll keep you updated on these bills. Of course, there's been a little action in the legislature this week to kind of back them up. They didn't meet for 2 or 3 days. They gotta be done by next Friday. So we should know by then on these bills. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.